And thank you. And I'll be your chair for this evening's event. So the session we're going to have tonight explores the motivation of the hero voter segment, swing voters who backed Labour but may shift in future elections. Our panellists tonight are going to examine the value that shapes this group, including fairness, respect for work, security and trust in institutions, and discuss how these translate into preferences on economic policy, immigration and public services. So I'm going to start by introducing our panellists. So immediately here to my left is Mohammad Yasin. Mohammad's the Labour MP for Bedford, having first been elected to Parliament in 2017 and being re-elected in 2019 with a majority of just 145. Yay. Wow, well done. You only need to be one to win, yeah? So we'll hear from Mohammad soon. We've then got Dr. Tom Lubbock, who's the co-founder of JL Partners. He's a public opinion and stakeholder insight specialist. He works with campaigns, government departments and corporate clients to shape strategy, narrative and communications. And then at the end we have Bill Esterson MP, my mother's MP.
No.
Oh, actually, no, you're not. No, you're not. You a road too far over my mum. So he served as the Member of Parliament for Sefton Central since 2010. He holds a joint degree in maths and physiology, philosophy, yeah, at the University of Leeds, and previously worked as an accountant and director of a training consultancy. So we'll be hearing from Bill soon as well. And we'll shortly be dialing in Paul Hilder as well, who's a British-born social entrepreneur, writer and organiser. So we'll be dialing Paul in as the session goes on. Format today, we're going to hear shortly from Tom, who's going to give us a presentation on key polling data and business insights. We'll then move into a panel discussion before taking some questions from you, our wonderful audience, towards the end of the event. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Tom.
Thank you so much. Okay, right, let me give you a quick recap of who these hero voters are, because I know that's why we're all here. So the really simple definition of a hero voter that we like to use is someone who voted Conservative in 2019. So they voted for Boris Johnson when the choices were Jeremy Corbyn or Boris Johnson. And then in 2024, they looked like they were going to vote for Keir Starmer. That's why they were called hero voters. And in the end, we're saying they actually did vote for Keir Starmer. So you voted Conservative in 2019. You voted for Keir Starmer in 2024, you're therefore a hero voter. You won that election for Labour, essentially. You were really important to that coalition. So that's who we're talking about. I know there are other more complicated definitions that have floated around in Labour HQ in the past, but I think it's best to stick to this simple one. Okay, so with that in mind, I want to show you in our polling data, which was collected over the last few days, what those hero voters are doing now, exactly how they are thinking about voting. And I'm working with a TV that seems to want to go on and off. Someone's looking at it, but it's not going to hold us back. We will get to it. Because I'm going to show you momentarily what we call the octopus of doom from the hero voters. And I'm going to tell you it's not actually as bad as it looks. So on the left here, imagine that we're looking at all of the hero voters. So that block on the left-hand side, that red block, is all of the hero voters. They all voted for Keir Starmer in 2024. Where are they voting now? Well, that's on the right-hand side, their current voting intention. The key figure here is 66% saying they're going to vote Labour. So Labour are holding on to 66% of the hero voters. And that may look bad. The octopus of doom with its many tentacles may look bad for Labour. But actually, I can reassure you that in terms of voters as a whole, Labour voters from 2024, 55% of them are actually saying they're going to vote Labour now. So interestingly, and this is actually a research finding that I haven't seen reported elsewhere, these hero voters who were switchers from the Conservatives, they voted for Boris Johnson in 2019, they're actually more loyal to Keir Starmer now than the average Labour 2024 voter, and I'll show you why that is in a minute. But let's look at where these heroes have gone. You've lost 8% of them to Reform, 6% of them have gone Lib Dem, very different. Only 3% of them have flopped back into that Conservative bucket, and you've got 7% of the don't knows there. There's a small group of Green voters and a couple of Plaid and SNP voters too. So I think it just shows you how the coalition has fractured. Let's look quickly at who they are. So complicated chart this, but on the right hand side in red here, people who are more likely to be hero voters. On the left hand side, people who are less likely to be hero voters. So the hero voter is likely to be older. They own their house outright, they're retired, they're on 50 grand or more, they're more likely to be a graduate, live in Yorkshire and the Humber, or the east of England or London, a bit more likely to be male, and then the other categories kind of drop away. So that's who your hero voters were. What are they interested in? How do you hold on to them? So we asked them here, what do you think are the 3 most important issues facing you? And I've highlighted here where there are differences between the hero voters and everyone else. So starting with NHS and healthcare, the heroes are a bit more interested in the NHS and healthcare. Immigration, they are a bit more interested in immigration than everyone else. They're a bit more interested in tax and spend, only ever so slightly, a bit less interested in jobs and wages, and much more interested in national security and defence. And I think we can come back to this in questions, but I think there's a sort of coalition of policies that presents itself as fairly obvious there for the heroes. This is even more complicated.
Wow.
This is the spaghetti graph of doom, I call this. It's from the 2019 vote to 2025 vote, just for Labour voters from 2024. And you will see from this that the only one thing to take away from this, and that is that the Labour 2024 coalition has absolutely fractured. It's gone all over the place, and that's why putting it back together is going to be so difficult. Even people who said they didn't know how they were going to vote in 2019 have gone to Reform. They've gone all over the place. They voted for Labour in 2024, but now they've gone all over the place. So a really tough task to put that coalition together. The hero voters are important though. And I'll finish on this one, because I think elections are in the UK fought through the lens of who the leader of the parties are, who is most preferred as Prime Minister. And we asked people, who would you choose in a straight choice between Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage, if that is the choice at the next election? You'll see the hero voters here, 40% of them say Keir Starmer, 38% of them say Nigel Farage. It's touch and go, it's very close. Remember, these people all voted Labour in 2024. It's ever so slightly better for Labour than everyone as a whole. If you look at everyone as a whole, Nigel Farage actually, or everyone else, Nigel Farage actually leads 31 to 29 over Keir Starmer. So that makes things very, very tough. But as I say, there's a coalition of policies which I think we've already talked about, which could be a real winning ticket for Labour going into the next election. And I think I've used up my 10 minutes, so I will.
You've got a little bit longer if you
there.
want to keep going.
No?
No, you're good. Fantastic. Good. Thank you very much. So a lot of graphs and spaghetti and goodness knows what else to absorb there, but actually really, really interesting data. So let's see how our 2 MPs in the room interpret this. Let's start by looking at, given the current economic challenges, what single policy or communication strategy should the government prioritise to reach these hero voters? Let's start with you, Bill.
Single.
Single, just one.
Well, if we look at the chart, it is cost of living, and I think that is that actually speaks for itself, doesn't it? Keir set out some time ago, quite apart from his really excellent speech today, that we have 3 key priorities. One is cost of living. People have got to feel better off in the Parliament, and they've got to give us the credit for it. The second is that the public services, in particular the NHS, have got to improve, and people have got to give us the credit for it. And the third is they've got to feel safer in the communities and internationally. And the top of those, I think, is the cost of living point that your research bore out. To be fair, I'll just say a few more things. there is this, we have to deliver, and I thought what was great about today was we saw a positive vision from here. We saw clarity, we saw clear in the dividing lines between us and reform, and we saw his vision of how he's going to take things forward, and some really good story being starting to be told. And we've got to carry on telling that story, stick to it, and ensure that the delivery happens in every community. We've got to take on the argument where we're strong and they're weak. Now I've had two Prime Minister's questions recently. The first one I picked was workers' rights, and it landed very well in the chamber, I'm sure, in the country. The difference between our agenda, and Keir talked about about us ending the iniquitous practice of fire and rehire, of getting rid of 0 hours contracts, giving people day one rights, and we support that. So do the public. And the good thing about that agenda is that it appeals to people who've gone from us to the Greens and to the Lib Dems, as well as those who've gone from us to Reform at the moment, or thinking about going to Reform. And it is rebuilding that voter coalition, I think, is absolutely essential. The same is true on climate and energy, and I chair the select committee on energy security and net zero. And we're in the middle of an inquiry into building the case for the transition, and it is, again, crystal clear that we have a lot of work to do, and people have to see for themselves the benefits of taking not just climate action, but seeing the financial benefits, the energy security benefits of transitioning away from fossil fuels and into clean power. And then the other point is on public services in the NHS. Wes is doing a great job on that. He picked up on the anti-vax speaker that they had at their conference. This nonsense about paracetamol that came from Trump, and that Reform seemed to be repeating. And more widely than that, the Reform agenda is very clearly to undermine the NHS, to force people to pay for their healthcare, and it's getting across those key arguments. And then you add to that their support for Liz Truss. In fact, they want to turbocharge what Liz Truss did. So from us, really strong positive messages on all of that agenda. From them, real nonsense and damaging policies that the public don't support. I think your evidence backs up that that's the agenda we're going to fight on, and I think Keir really put us in a good place today.
Thank you, Bill. Mohammad, your views. So what single policy or communication strategies should the government be prioritising to reach our hero voters?
Can I start by thanking Ibrahim Douglas and yourself for inviting me here about 5 minutes ago to sit on this panel, because I was in the panel, so I haven't done any homework at all. But I will speak what I feel and what I experience on the doorsteps in the streets. So, thank you for your graphs you showed us here. But I believe that real opinion polls, they take place on the election day. Because if you look at my history, when I was elected in 2017 by 789 votes, I should have lost by 5,000. And nobody gave me a chance. But then in 2019, exit poll said that I'm losing by 6,000. So managed to hold on by 145, and I'm so proud that my constituents, who are real hero, they voted for me in 2017, 2019, and then again 18,342 people who voted for me in 2024, and they are the real heroes. Yeah, what I when I go on the doorsteps, the three main issues, I'll say I agree with you, Bill. Cost of living is hurting the people. It's really difficult because families, they work in long hours, they have to pay the bills, and cost of living is causing many other issues as well. For example, if parents are working long hours, the kids come back.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We'll come to you in a sec, Paul.
We can hear you, Paul.
So when the parents are
I can't
working,
hear you, but that's because you're on mute. So I think it's all good.
We'll come to you in a sec, Paul. Thanks so much. getting the tech to work.
It's taken about 1 minute.
Sorry, Mohammed, carry on.
When the parents are doing long hours because they are worried about their bills, council tax, etc., 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 the kids that come back from school, there's nobody at home to supervise them. For example, both parents are working. They go out, they fall into wrong hands, and and unsavory characters, they use them. So as a result, my second issue, which is my constituents are telling me, is antisocial behavior. So cost of living, long hours of work, people can't afford to pay the bills, is contributing towards antisocial behavior. Antisocial behavior, the policing is another very big issue in my constituency, and I believe in many other constituencies as well. And people want neighbourhood policing back in, because the Tories took away from us, and it's as a result, our streets are not safe. A third major issue is transport in my area, especially buses. When it comes to buses, bus service is really poor, and I'm very pleased that the Labour government has taken some steps and will give powers back to the local councils. We will reinstate the buses where they needed to. So these are the three main issues my constituents are facing. But I also would say that if you want to keep these heroes, I would suggest, many other MPs have choose different ways, but my way is drop-in surgeries, open drop-in surgeries in supermarkets, available to anybody and everybody who want to come to see me. Go for door knocking. Don't ask for votes, all the time. Just knock on the door and say, look, I'm your MP. Is there anything I can do for you? And meeting the people, face the problems. If we hide from the problems, it's not going to help us. So this is what I do. I do my open drop-in surgeries, meet the people, available to everybody, so they can come and see me with their issues. So be honest with being honest with the people. Say, look, I try my best. I can't do miracles, but I try my best to help you. And if I can help you, I'll do it. If I can't, I direct you to the relevant people. This is what I do. From my office, you always reply to emails. I'm sure other colleagues do as well. Sometimes you make the people happy, sometimes they get not so happy, but listening them and replying back to them is very, very important and essential. So I'll stop here. I think I've taken a few minutes over than I was given, but I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed.
I think we've got a hero MP actually.
I think we have, yeah. Tom, firstly, Paul, welcome. We'll be with you shortly. I'm David.
Should we go straight to Paul while he survives on my Wi-Fi?
Yeah, we will, but I just want to give him a minute to realise what we're talking about. So,
yes.
Tom, I want to come to you very briefly.
Absolutely.
You've heard from both the MPs. Paul, what we're talking about is, given the current economic challenges, what single policy or comms strategy should the government prioritise to reach our hero voters? So, if you have a little bit of think about that, and Tom, I want you to tell me whether you agree with the two MPs.
No, I totally agree. Those are, Bill said straight away, cost of living, and that is absolutely the right message, and it's not one I've heard enough from this government, unfortunately, yet. Voters do not see the economy through the lens of GDP or growth, or in fact jobs. They see the economy through the lens of their own shopping bill, their own trips that they can afford, and their own holidays. And unless you are talking, difficult as it is, unless you are talking in those terms about energy bills, about the price of butter, campaigning on their behalf, they will not be listening on the economy, unfortunately. It's very hard to do. There are ways to do it. You have to be a campaigner for your constituents. And I think that, brilliant summation of how to be a constituency MP, to listen. It's all about listening to your constituents. That's what we do day to day. Listening to the public, listening to stakeholders, and then using the way they talk, using the problems that they have to help them. And really that is, those two things combined, the cost of living and listening to constituents, are the way to keep the heroes. Great,
thank you. Paul, I'll bring you in now. Hopefully you've had a bit of time to know where we're at with the discussion. I'm quite interested. Good sound as well. We can hear you well in the room, which is great. I'm quite interested to hear from you in terms of we talk quite locally with the other two MPs, which is great. But what do you think the government needs to be doing to help all MPs win over the hero voters moving forward?
Okay. So I'd like to step back for a moment and talk about the bigger picture, and I will respond to your question. I just want to expand the frame a little bit. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I'm running an election campaign in the Czech Republic at the moment. Voting starts on Friday.
That's fair.
So I want to talk briefly about three things. I want to talk about Keir Starmer's speech. I want to talk about some of the challenges about the current position for Labour, and I want to talk about the idea of winning back the hero voters and suggest a slightly different way of thinking about the task before Labour in the run-in to 2029. But when it comes to Keir Starmer's speech first, it was, I think, probably his best ever. I do think that the central idea of renewing Britain, that kind of mission, that vision, is very strong. The critical question in the coming months and years is going to be whether that rhetoric, which I think is on the level it needs to be, will be followed through with the required boldness when it comes to actions. Because I think one of the challenges last year in the election was that we ran under a slogan of change, but we removed some of the substance of change from the election programme and manifesto. Renew Britain reminds me of the message that I was recommending to Labour's leadership in 2019, recommended Rebuild Britain. That was rejected as being Blairite by Jeremy Corbyn's team at that time. As anyone who's read Get Out will know, because they write it up rather amusingly, this accusation is probably more amusing for anyone who knows my particular history with Peter Mandelson. I want to say a couple of words about Labour's current position, and I want to be very honest about it, because I think that without that kind of honesty, Labour will be in a worse place, not a better place in the coming year. It is my view that there have been a series of mistakes, strategic, tactical and political mistakes, which have put Keir Starmer and the Labour Party in a dire position as of today, a long way behind the Reform Party. Coming back from a net approval rating as it currently stands, if I think -60 is difficult. I haven't seen it done before, but it could be done. Renew Britain's a good message, and I think highly of many people in and around the current leadership. But I think that we need to be honest about the reality that we live in. And one of the things that I would urge today's Labour Party to understand is that we live today in an age of global populism. Populism is not some kind of other, some kind of adversary. Populism is the weather, it is the climate, it is the air that we breathe. And we also live in a country where a growing number of people have come to realise that there are some things that really aren't working, and that we need some. This is not about tinkering around the edges. I was last week in London at the Global Progress Conference, where Keir Starmer gave an important keynote speech. He said many impressive and important things in that speech. One of the things, though, that he said was that this is a battle for the soul of the country. I do kind of agree with that statement, but one senior and seasoned American operative said to me afterwards, I don't know whether that was deliberate, but that battle for the soul of the country was one of Joe Biden's central refrains before he stood down as the Democratic candidate for the American presidency, a re-election in 2024, and it wasn't working, and there are reasons why it wasn't working. Because people are very concerned about things like daily life and things like shit in the water, and they want more significant improvements rather than what they often consider to be empty words coming from politicians about abstract nouns. Finally, I think that there are some questions for the Labour Party and its leadership to answer around recent events. I very much hope that media reporting that the security services report on Beach Mandelson before he was appointed as ambassador to Washington were redacted. This is the Prime Minister. I very much hope that those reports are not true, because if they are true, it is my view that that is treason. Turning to the question of winning back the hero voters, I have always thought this idea of hero voters is a narrow, distorted prism, which risks leading to strategic mistakes. People in the Labour Party currently often talk about centering the voter, putting the voter first. What happens when you center a persona of a voter, which you probably don't fully understand and which is very partial, it's just a specific small slice of the electorate, is that you can very easily lose your compass, and you can also lose track of which of the hero voters, you know, classically the sort of Labour, Leigh type voter, if you think about their history, which of those voters can you get back? And which of them are probably gone forever? And I think that there was some strategic mistakes made there. It's my view, and this is rooted in the report that my former firm, Data Praxis, did for Labour Together for their post-mortem on the 2019 election. It's my view, based on that analysis, that Labour needs a much more sophisticated and updated analysis of where the electorate is at and how it can assemble a winning coalition, either on its own or along with other parties, that prevents what is now the central scenario, which is that Nigel Farage becomes the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. It is very much all to play for still. There is a long time between now and 2029. I think that the cratering that we have seen in Labour's poll support over the last year or so, I've also seen recently in Poland and other places, very hard now for incumbents, particularly when those incumbents do not reckon properly with the scale of the crisis that we are in. So those are just some modest reflections from a square in Prague, where there is some sort of voter suppression projection going on behind me, because things are very bad here as well. And I hope that's helpful. I should go in a second because I'm running an election campaign, but I hope you don't mind me leaving you with those thoughts. Is that okay?
Paul, thank you very much.
All right.
We appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Thank you. Tom, I just want to come to you briefly. So, just a bit of a reflection on what Paul said. Do you think a new coalition's emerged that downplays or even negates the role of the hero voter?
Yeah, really interesting. And am I glad Paul didn't see my slides, or am I not? I don't know. Look, I think what I said at the start is that these hero voters from 2024 have actually been more loyal than your average 2024 voter, and I think that says it all. That I think I also showed you that chart of the fragmentation of the Labour coalition, the kind of colander-like nature of the coalition with holes everywhere. And really that is the problem that makes it so hard to win back, that there are essentially, you're leaking votes all over the place, and for all sorts of reasons. Now look, I think I differ slightly from Paul in the scale of the diagnosis of the challenge. I think it is certainly not as bad as all that, but the way to win these voters back is to, and I said this to I spent an hour talking about this to a conference the other day and got a huge laugh when I said this, but just to be a bit better. So the average voter genuinely wants to be led. They want strong leadership. They have roughly the same concerns. They are concerned about the cost of living. They are concerned about a very small subset of immigration, which is what they see as illegal immigration, the small boats, arrivals, and almost universally people are concerned about that issue now. And they are obviously users and often producers of NHS services as well. Almost everybody knows someone who works in the NHS. We all use it, and it's a key kind of touchstone for us. And it is currently the ray of hope, the ray of light, if you like, in the first 18 months of a Labour government that otherwise has struggled slightly to find stories to shout about. So look, I think I disagree with Paul slightly about how dire the situation is, but very much agree that the way back is to find that narrative that brings along a coalition of voters that may be different from the one in 2024, but nevertheless kind of gets you to that majority in 2029.
Thank you, thank you. Coming back to the MPs, I'm going to come to you next, Mohammad. You engage with your voters, but clearly there's a lot of work for us all to do to engage with hero voters if we're going to get Labour over the line in 2029. So who do you think are the most effective messengers for engaging with this group of hero voters?
So I'm not quite happy to call only 2024 voters who vote for us heroes. I think everybody who's in electoral role is a hero. And we need to target everybody. And there are loads of people, vast majority of the people, they are not political. They, they will vote for the person sometimes they know. They might vote for the party only on one policy they like. And, there are different type of people. So when voters are not happy with the political parties, then personal vote really matters. And you only can gain that personal vote is by talking to the people, meeting the people. And to be honest with you, I'm a backbencher, and I love being backbencher because I don't have to worry too much about the outside world. So Bedford and Kempston, my constituency, is more important to me than anything else. So what I do is I try to meet, listen, and try to help those people. And I think that's way forward. But of course the policies do matter, and I believe that I know the polls are showing the Labour Party may be in trouble, but when I go out and knock on the doors, it's not that bad. We had again in Cambridgeshire. I was door knocking for the candidate couldn't win, but the one next door managed to win. So I think your hard work pays off. Doesn't matter what the polls say, but please keep going, everybody. Whoever the candidates are in the future and the local sitting MPs. That's what I will do. I will probably pay less attention to the polls, but real polls are when the elections happens on the day, and we only can win by doing hard work.
Fantastic, thank you. Bill, same question to you. So who are the messengers? You can't do this all yourself. So who are the most effective messengers for you for engaging with your hero voters?
Yeah, well, I don't like the term hero voters being used in this way either, by the way, but that's a long-running fight that I lost many years ago, because I think anybody votes Labour is a hero. But I knock on a lot of doors. We've got one of the candidates for our local elections is over here, Mel, in my constituency. And there are an awful lot of people who are up for grabs at the moment. I think that would be the message that I would put across. I think people have gone office at the moment, but they can come back, and I think this is the point you were making, Tom. And some of this is by us engaging with them at a local level. There's no doubt about that. I agree with Mohammad, but whether it's their member of parliament or a candidate or a councillor knocking on their doors, that is invaluable. Getting good messages across about local delivery. It's away from politics, actually. What's most important to people outside their front door. It might be litter, it might be getting the bins collected, it might be getting an alleyway clean. All of these things are incredibly important, whether you're standing for local authority or for Parliament. In an age of cynicism, I think it is important. But on a bigger level, immigration does come up a lot. The small boats is massively concerning to people when we knock on doors. And I think the way Keir framed it today is really important because he balanced the national security aspects of of ending this vile trade, with the fact that it is a moral point, that it's a trade in human misery, that people are being exploited. So over 70 people died in the Channel last year. We haven't got the figures for this year. Yeah, and it's quite right that we make the case for stopping it. And we've actually already got quite a good story to tell. We didn't dwell on that today, but I think we need to make sure anybody who's knocking on doors has those figures. That we've returned 35,000 people, that we've halved the backlog, that we've got agreements with Germany on disrupting the human traffickers, and that we are following the evidence of what is going to work through legislation that is similar to what has been effective in tackling terrorism. So it is important to deal with that and to neutralise it as an issue. And I'm just looking at what Australian Labour did in winning their election. And I think they are one of the rare examples of an incumbent on the centre-left winning. And it was about cost of living and reducing pressures on households. It was about neutralising the issues around immigration. They have their own version of what we're seeing at the moment, and avoiding being seen as weak. And then the comparison, we are building credibility. We have stability in the economy. We do have the fastest growing economy in the G7, whatever the right-wing media and our political opponents say, compared to this desire to repeat the disastrous damage done by Liz Truss with her mini budget, which is what Farage and Tice advocate. So there are some clues there. There is some good evidence, and I think, Tom, you're right. I don't think we should dismiss what Paul is saying at all for 1 minute. This is going to be really, really challenging, but I think there are routes back for us. And it's a fight we've got to win. I'll just one other thought. Well,
I'm going to have to wrap up in a second, because I want to take some questions.
Cost of living is an area where we can get advocates on the ground. So the government's Warm Homes Plan, which I'm scrutinising as a select committee chair, we're going to cut £500 a year on average off people's bills where they benefit from the Warm Homes Plan. It's a prime example where people who see the benefits of getting investment in their homes in energy efficiency measures, in solar and battery storage and electric heat as well, when people see that kind of thing, when they see a Labour government delivering it, they will tell their friends, their neighbours, their family, and it's having examples like that. I mean, we talked about the breakfast clubs actually in Keir's speech, didn't we? So using advocates in our communities to say, actually, this government is making a difference here and now in my lives. I think to answer your question, I think that is the most powerful thing.
Super. Thank you. I'm going to open to questions. We've probably only got time for a couple, because we've got 5 minutes left. So I'll take the person at the very back over there. You had your hand up first, and the person over here as well.
Hi, Councillor Coach Weapons Bristol. I was actually born in Southend, so it's great that Southend's got Labour MPs now.
Hey.
Question I wanted to ask is about, the right-wing media and the bias. I mean, BBC still got Tory, the people that Boris Johnson put in, and Raj can go and give them a free ride, and we're just shredding. We have to get to grips with that, otherwise, our job is just so much harder.
Okay.
And you just look online and you just see reams of stories from the Mail, the Express, just trashing us, whatever we do.
Challenges of the right-wing media, and this person over here. Let's just get the mic to you quickly.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So cost of living crisis is a really big issue, massive where I am, very deprived area. And the one thing that people have said that they were hoping for, I've lost 20% of my membership, I've lost 80% of my executive on my CLP since you got in last year. The one thing that you could have done in this speech was to scrap child benefit, and I would have brought all of those people back to me. So it's all very well saying you've got £500 here and there for green energy. I get that, but installing that into people's homes takes time, whereas scrapping that is instant.
Thank you. Okay, so
I just wanted to know whether you were.
Thank you. So,
We're stuck with the right-wing media. The answer to it is to get out and bang on as many doors as possible and do our own literature again and again and again on stuff that is away from them, the sort of local stuff I was talking about earlier. Is my honest advice. It works, it is effective. But in the end, delivery will get us there. As for the two-child limit, £3.5 billion, let's wait for the budget. And it is, yes, it is the best way of getting children out of poverty. Completely agree with you. Let's hope that that's what Rachel does.
I'll hang on for a budget.
Okay. Tom, over to you.
Yeah, I do think complaining about the media is like fighting the air. It's like you just set up your own media. There's the disintermediation that social media now allows is incredible. So I kind of and you know the organisations who were mentioned can find stories that they want to report that are positive about what Labour's trying to achieve. That's what I would say. I'll let others answer the other one.
Perfect. And Mohammad?
I think the one big issue our government has not done very well is sending the message out. We've done some lot of good work, but when it comes to sending the message out, I think we have completely failed. I think we need to improve on that, and that's the way we can challenge the right-wing media. On the two-child, I think you're absolutely right. I think if the Labour government doesn't reinstate, who will? And we will, speaking on this. But I totally understand the current situation on the finances as well. But I really hope within this term, the Labour government will reinstate it.
Thank you. I did see today, and I can't remember who it was, whether it was the Prime Minister or the Chancellor, who said that they do intend to remove the two-child benefit cap limit as soon as they're able to. So we have to live in hope. Right, we're going to have to wrap up, unfortunately. It's been a really interesting session today. I was meant to be a panellist today, but stepped into chair.
Well
so
done.
I'm going to give my little thoughts before we wrap up. Look, it has been a tough year, but being inside Parliament, an awful lot of good stuff is being done. You look at the Employment Rights Bill, you look at the Renters' Rights Bill, you look at the amount of NHS appointments, an extra 5 million NHS appointments, to name just a few things. There's so much good stuff being done. The big issue we have at the moment is the public aren't feeling it. The public are not feeling it. So we're talking about change, but we don't feel that change yet. That change should be felt over the next couple of years. And I think there is a messaging problem, as we said. It's down to all of us. If you're a Labour Party member, we are part of getting that messaging out. We need you to help us get that messaging out, because the right-wing media, as we heard, we might as well ignore it because they're never going to help us, they're never going to support us. The way we have to get that message out is through the work you all do as fantastic activists. I'm going to wrap up. I want to thank our wonderful panel, Bill, Tom and Mohammad.